City Office of Contract Compliance has been involved in the enforcement of prevailing wage since 1971 for monitoring and enforcement of prevailing wages. Prevailing wage it's basically a minimum wage that is established for any worker on a public works project. If it's a library or a school or a sewer, street lighting, whatever, anything that is paid for out of public funds is a public works project. State and federal law have established certain minimum wages must be paid to the workers on those projects. You're going to have some contractors that will come in and they understand the wage is supposed to be $48 an hour and they're going to pay $12 an hour. Just the fact that the law says people are supposed to pay a certain wage does not necessarily mean that the people will pay that wage. If contractors are cheating on their prevailing wage, that's not all they're cheating on. They're cheating on their taxes, they're cheating on their workers' comp, they're probably trying to cut corners on materials and whatever else. But in the meantime, they are cheating not only their workers, but they're also cheating the city because we have paid them a certain amount of money with the understanding they will turn around and pay their workers. And they're also cheating the honest, reputable contractors that the city is doing business with. We have a state-certified labor compliance program. Basically, that makes us an enforcement arm of the state. We had one contractor that was clearly cheating his workers. This contractor, when I had first showed up to do an audit, had refused to allow me entrance. Okay, it's up to you. If you don't want to do it this way, there's other ways we can do it. I contacted the State Department of Insurance. We went up at a few minutes before 7 o'clock in the morning. There were 12 of us that went in. 10 were armed, and the first guy had a glove on with studs all over it and just started banging on the door and yelling, "Police, open up, we have a warrant." Guns are out. We went in. The Department of Insurance Employment Development took out, I think, 12 computers and boxes and boxes and boxes of documents. Contractor was arrested, and we got the documents we were after. It would have been smarter to just deal with us in the first place. The contractor has a right to an appeal to a hearing. I truly hope with every contractor I meet that it never goes that way, because since the hearing process started back in 2001, we've never lost a case. We have a perfect record, and we intend to keep it that way. They're not going to win. We know for a fact. The California Labor Code is basically, that's our Bible. The California Labor Code is very specific in the way it's written to allow enforcement. I am very concerned and very cautious to make sure that we do things exactly the way they are supposed to be done. We always get the money back for the worker, and we don't get 10 cents on the dollar or 99 cents on the dollar. We get 100 cents on the dollar. We have a unity of enforcement of smaller cities or agencies all over Southern California. We'll share information. We'll talk about XYZ company, and XYZ company was a problem for us, and here's what they did. And somebody else will say, "Oh, we've got XYZ company starting on one of our jobs. Okay, we'll keep an eye on them."
I've gone through so much trouble because of what my boss did to us, to the people that work for him, you know. I got evicted, I've been staying in my car.
There are a number of different ways we might discover that workers have been underpaid. Sometimes the workers will come in and complain to us that they're underpaid. Sometimes we'll get an anonymous tip. Sometimes we get calls from third parties. Very often we get tips from our own inspectors. The Bureau of Contract Administration has about 250 inspectors on our various jobs all over the city. They talk to the workers, they get to know the workers. The workers will open up and tell them things. They then call us and say, "I'm talking to these guys and they're working Saturdays and they're not getting paid for it." Or they're working 10-hour days and they're only getting paid for 8. We take that information from whatever source and start an investigation. So we go out and do an audit on the contractor's business. We show up and they open up their books. They are required by law to show it to us. If the investigation indicates, yes, there is a problem, then we will notify the contractor. We will send them a letter saying, "We believe you owe $87,000 to your workers." well, the contractor's going to scream right off the bat. If we can resolve it, terrific, great. Typically, we collect over $1 million every year in restitution for workers. But that money also goes back into the economy in the city. Now, we offer a free class for contractors to explain to them what they need to do, what the hoops are, what they need to do to jump through them. Right on the BCA homepage is a link that says Contractor Assistance Seminar, and that is for the monthly class that I do. We have met many times here with workers who were underpaid or sometimes not paid at all on the city's projects and turned over checks for millions of dollars to workers right here on this spot.
Muchas gracias por su ayuda. Sin su ayuda, pues no hubiéramos recibido este dinero ni hubiéramos podido hacer lo que es justicia.
We affect people's lives in very serious, significant ways. I will never forget, as long as I live, one guy coming in with his wife and 2 little boys, and they're about 3 and 4, and I gave him his check for about $10,000, and he said, "Thank you. I guess now we'll have a Christmas after all." We protect workers, protecting city and protecting contractors. That's what we do.
Some years ago, I was actually working in the area and I was spraying a wall. As soon as I finished that wall, maybe 5 minutes later, I seen this tagger just came down and just started tagging it up. And so when I seen him, I said, "Hey," and then he ran, you know what I'm saying? That's how quick they can put it right back up. Graffiti, it's just a cat and mouse game. The sooner we take it off, the faster they'll put it right back up.
This is the Office of Community Beautification. We are part of the city's Board of Public Works. And the Office of Community Beautification is set up basically to work with nonprofit community-based organizations and volunteers throughout the city of Los Angeles to clean and beautify and improve their neighborhoods in a number of different ways, including graffiti removal. The main problem with graffiti really is that if you allow it to stay up for any length of time without removing it, it tends to really increase sort of exponentially. And you let one tag stay on the wall, it's going to quickly turn into 5, into 10, into 15. Graffiti's allowed to remain in the neighborhood for a long time. It sort of shows that people either don't care about the neighborhood or don't have control over the neighborhood. And if you can write on the walls and get away with it, quickly might lead into breaking into vehicles, stuff like that.
Obviously, graffiti, we all know it's part of the gang culture.
It's an area where gangs been around for a long time, you know. They want to put up their neighborhood where they from and stuff.
What you see behind me, this is hardcore graffiti, where you see 2 gangs going at it, pretty much at it. And you can see in the back also, they're crossing each other. What that means is there's a war. So what we're trying to do here is stop that war by erasing it and eliminating it. Whenever you do graffiti on another property, which is not yours, you can get in trouble and you pay the consequences. And if you get caught, it could be a misdemeanor too. So they're doing investigation and people are getting caught. If there's people that are doing it every day, they'll get them. Our staff members remove graffiti from sidewalks, any walls, any non-private location. I mean, any graffiti that's out on the streets, any pole, electrical boxes, garage doors, trash cans, pretty much we remove anything out on the streets that has graffiti. GAP has a mentality that if they do it 100, we're gonna go back and do it 101. Because we're out there to prove and send a message that, you know, this is people's community and people, you know, that care about it. So our staff members will go back as many times as they can to get rid of the graffiti, and that's the mentality GAP has. We prevent kids from joining gangs, so that's what we're doing here, is preventing this, you know, anything else happening in this community. Cultural First has the right of all the murals, so we're not allowed to touch pretty much any of the murals. They're the ones. And whenever we get a request, we go out and look at it, and we'll pretty much refer it back to that department.
Okay, if the business owner want it on there, they have to get it inspected by the city. You know, the city have to see if it's presentable. If it's not presentable, then we have to take it right on off.
Even if the property owner said, hey, it's okay to put it on the wall, that property owner can get cited by the city's Department of Building and Safety for having a mural up without a permit on it. Then when you apply for a permit, what Public Works will do, will apply a free anti-graffiti coating which will protect that mural so that if it does get tagged up in the future, our crews can go out and remove the graffiti without damaging the mural, which will give the mural a lot longer lifespan than if it doesn't have a protective coating.
Pretty much what we're doing is making this community a better place for our kids and the families living around this area. Our staff members, they go out to the main streets, what we call zero tolerance, and they go through those main streets erasing graffiti. They're putting their lives to, make this community a better place for the people living in here.
This is one of the areas that you have to really watch your back when you're out here doing graffiti abatement.
We wear the vest so people will notice us, and then the overall we wear it so they'll know that we're working, not just anybody like trying to take off their gang. They know they see our truck, we have beacon lights and everything, the cones. When we know it's a hot spot, we usually try to do it early to be safe. And if we have to go, yes, we'll get out. But we usually try to avoid those situations.
We get community residents calling the 311 system to make a graffiti request, and that's what our staff member is doing, actually inside the community erasing that graffiti request that we got from a local resident. The city has now a reward for if they see something, say something, and if they get caught, they get rewarded for that. The way people submit a request is they can either call 311 system or there's a new app called My LA 311. People, can make a request anonymous. They can go in there, pretty much what they're asking is the location with their address or the graffiti. Where's the graffiti on? Is it on a sidewalk? Is it a pole? Is it a garage door? And then pretty much, give us a little description. What color is the graffiti? And they submit it, and then they'll get a receipt. And then we have a quick system in our graffiti people. Once we get a request, the following day we'll take care of it.
Also, free of charge, we'll remove graffiti off of people's private property. We'll provide rollers and buckets of paint free of charge. The more people we have removing graffiti off their own private property, the more time that frees our crews up to handle the graffiti on the city property.
But we get a lot of requests we have to have done within a period of time. Sometimes we get 50. One request could take us 2 or 3 hours.
When homeowners call, they're glad to see us because we're about to clean their house. Store owners, usually by the time they get there, we already came by, so they don't see it. But when they see us drive by, they're like, "Thank you. I know you cleaned my store, but I didn't see it."
I like to come out and keep the neighborhood clean, and a lot of residents, they appreciate that.
All my life I lived here. It does have a lot of graffiti. When you come and remove it, it looks beautiful like before, very beautiful.
We have people that sometimes bring water to our staff member. And those are the things, again, it tells us that they care about it and they really appreciate the work that we're doing.
The city contracts with nonprofit community-based organizations. We currently have 13 different contractors who are spread geographically throughout the city.
We have contracts in the county, the river, downtown Los Angeles. We have several areas. I'm all over.
Before we could not walk in these alleys and stand around like it. Thanks to the LAPD and neighbors calling for graffiti. We clean the area, gangs are out, we're in. It looks a lot safer.
The city of Los Angeles has 4 water reclamation plants. We take the wastewater that is generated from day-to-day domestic and industrial operations, and we send it through different stages of treatment and remove all the constituents that could be detrimental to the receiving waters where they are discharging. Our mission is to protect the environment, protect the health of the public, and also to do resource recovery.
You can recycle paper, you can recycle cans, you can recycle bottles, well, you can also recycle water. And that's done all the time now to take water that's been used, run it through filters, purify it, treat it, and now it can be usable for all kinds of purposes.
The use of recycled water in the city is critical to us right now. It's really a key part of our local supply picture.
So all of our plants are producing recycled water at a minimum at a tertiary level. This high purity water has many uses.
It's not quite drinking water standards, but it's fine for a lot of industrial uses, irrigation. You see it on a lot of golf courses. It's perfect for that kind of use.
Terminal Island Water Reclamation Plant is the only plant currently of the city of Los Angeles that takes treatment one step further, and we are producing highly purified recycled water that matches the quality of potable or drinking water. The water flows through inside of this tiny hollow fibers, and it removes any particle that is larger than 0.2 micron. Then the water, after microfiltration, passes through the layers of a reverse osmosis membrane, and any dissolved organics, pharmaceuticals, household products, salts, everything gets stripped at this stage. The highly purified recycled water that we are producing is really clean. It is meeting the drinking water standards. One of the challenges with recycled water has always been the cost associated with it.
It's more expensive to desalinate ocean water than it is to treat wastewater to this highly treated level.
There are many technologies that have been implemented all over the world. However, the idea is to come up with solutions where it can reduce cost, so it would make recycled water more of a desirable alternative.
They've done a great job of managing the plant. They've worked hard to make the plant more efficient and to drive the cost down.
Terminal Island Water Reclamation Plant has always been a trailblazer. We were one of the first plants in the nation that actually implemented advanced water purification. There were a lot of challenges along the way, but what makes this project successful is we never shied away from better ways and newer ways to do things. And of course, we share our knowledge, and other plants nationwide have decided to take our approach and implement that.
It's just a terrific engineering enterprise. They're really at the forefront of helping to conserve potable water by using recycled water.
We've taken the highly treated recycled water produced at the Terminal Island plant, and then we deliver that to customers. The biggest customer right now is the Dominguez Gap Barrier.
It's a series of 91 wells situated all along the coast, and they're constantly, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, pumping fresh water down into the ground to make up for all of the water that's being pumped out. Here in the LA Basin, there's billions and billions of gallons of water underground. There's currently over 150 water wells pulling out that groundwater that's being used for water supply.
As we pull that basin down, then the sea level wants to rush in from the ocean to fill it back up because it wants to make everything the same level. Projects like the Dominguez Gap Barrier and other barriers inject that water to keep ocean water from intruding into the groundwater basin. Otherwise, our drinking water in that area could become salty. The seawater barrier, in this case the recycled water, it's our wall around the groundwater tank, and it's protecting that stored water that's so critical as a local supply.
Historically, we were only using drinking water to put down there. That's because we want the water to be very pure when we're pumping it underground. But as we all know, drinking water is getting harder to come by. And so ever since about the last 10 years, we've been replacing that drinking water with highly treated recycled water. We spread that water under the ground and it soaks into the aquifers. Mother Earth naturally filters the water, purifies it even more, and it might take 10 years or 20 years as it mixes with other waters before someone pulls it out of a water well.
It's great quality water, and it's highly monitored, and it's local, and that's the key thing for us.
It's a great use for the recycled water instead of using everybody's drinking water.
By providing this recycled water, we are freeing up that potable water resource for other uses. Currently, we are providing 50% of the water that is being injected into the Dominguez Gap Barrier. By 2017, our advanced water purification is going to be fully expanded, and at that time, we can support the Dominguez Gap Barrier with 100% recycled water.
We're excited about the fact that Bureau of Sanitation's improving the capacity and the efficiency at the plant, and so we're looking to put more customers online there, such as some of the local refineries that are high water using customers and could really take advantage of this highly treated wastewater. People like water that comes out of nature, but a lot of water in nature has already been used before, and we know there's not a single new drop of water on the earth. So the hard part is getting past the yuck factor and getting people to accept that this highly treated recycled water is actually, in many cases, better than the source water coming out of rivers.
The water is tested fine, it meets all health requirements, but to this day it hasn't been accepted for use for a direct drinking water source because there hasn't been a need to. We still have other sources of water. But I think in the next 10 to 20 years, there will be an acceptance of the public to use this highly treated, nearly distilled water as an ultra-pure water source to be used for direct uses instead of having to go back into the ground.
Nothing should be off the table. We have the science and we have the technology to produce highly purified water that meets and exceeds drinking water standards.
The last 3 years, we've had half of the rainfall as we should have. This recycled water has really saved us from an extreme drought condition. Without that recycled water, we would be in a much greater risk of running out of a lot of our water supply.
It is a great source of water that we really need to capitalize on and increase our ability to rely on our own self and our own region without having to have so much water come from hundreds of miles away to sustain the city. We think that that's really the way of the future, both for LA and the whole Southern California region.
Water recycling is one of the most feasible and major means of increasing our local water resources.
We are in the museum that actually was dedicated to a collection of mostly one-of-a-kind streetlights that has existed in this city for the last 100 years. Most of the fixtures that you see here probably don't exist anywhere else in the world. The first type of light that was installed in the city was the gas lamp. Then slowly we started installing electric streetlights in the city. And as the city started growing, we started installing 400 different styles. And each style basically is representing the fabric of the communities that we have here in the city of Los Angeles. So we have made our mission to make sure to preserve those streetlights. We here in the Bureau of Street Lighting have always been forward thinkers. We've always looked at the new technologies. Just recently, about 8-9 years ago, we started looking at different ways that we could reduce our electricity usage. We've converted almost all the modern style Cobra head poles to LED, and we're hoping to convert all the decorative lamps to LED in the next 4 to 5 years. For the last 10 years, here in the city, we've been approached by different telecommunication companies to install various types of repeaters or antennas on street lighting poles for cell phone communication. It did generate some revenue for us, but frankly, aesthetically, they were not pleasing because you could see all these wires and the antennas hanging from a street light. So we started looking at a new design of a pole that will be able to accommodate those antennas inside the pole as opposed to them being visible attached on top of the pole.
Cellular data traffic is expected to grow 9 times by 2020, and current telecoms infrastructure is struggling to respond to this demand as new cell sites need to be built out at increasing rates, especially in dense urban areas.
We formed this private-public partnership with Philips Ericsson. We started working with different manufacturers, and finally we were able to design this new smart pole. The pole provides lighting, and at the same time, telecommunication companies will be able to install their equipment inside the pole. We are basically strengthening the telecommunication system of the city of Los Angeles.
We have reached the next major milestone in innovation. We're deploying the first 100 smart poles, which include fully integrated 4G LTE telecommunications technology. These smart poles are enabling the seamless mobile wireless connectivity, enhanced data capacity, and provide a double benefit: high quality public lighting that is energy efficient as well as improved network performance in dense urban areas without adding the clutter of visible radio and antenna equipment that we see in traditional deployments. As a result, operators will improve at much faster rate the density of the networks, the capacity, and make the smartphones and the apps work on it as they were designed.
Once all of these 600 poles are installed throughout the city, the capacity of the cell phone communication in the city of Los Angeles is going to be increased tremendously. In the case of an emergency, if you want to make a connection or you want to call someone, that's when it becomes extremely critical to make sure the communication system is in place. These poles are bigger poles, so we made sure the foundations are much stronger. The steel used in them is a lot stronger. It's going to strengthen the communication infrastructure, even in the case of catastrophic earthquake or emergencies. These poles are being installed at no cost to the city of Los Angeles. Actually, it has created some jobs for us. We basically have a lease agreement with Phillips Erickson. They actually pay the city and the city crews to install these poles. But in addition to that, we lease the location, the small cells inside those poles, and we generate revenue from this leasing. And that's something that in the long run will generate millions of dollars for the city of Los Angeles. What's happening here in this city with the smart pole hasn't happened anywhere else. We're way ahead of other cities throughout the country. It's something that may become a model for a lot of other cities.